it's recording.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Frauds for myself, Matt, and my co-host, Tyler.
Hello. Throw me off.
Talking about the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. This is Film Frauds. We are continuing our search for modern classic series. We have previously done The Last Jedi, The Irishman, and a bunch of other movies, The Birdman as well, where we basically look at the movies of the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, and we use facts and logic to determine whether they will be remembered as classics in film discourse forever until the humanity burns out and we all die. Nothing is remembered.
Except for Film Frauds.
Yes, except for Film Frauds and Hollow-Star's Paladin Saga. But today we're doing a filmmaker who's very near and dear to my heart. We're talking Yorgos Lanthimos and his film 2015's The Lobster.
Have you ever been on your own before?
No, never.
Your last relationship lasted how many years?
Around 12.
Sexual preference?
Women. Is there a bisexual option available?
No, sir. This option is no longer available.
A movie that I came across in 2015 when I was a young film scholar of 18 years old. I came across a trailer for this movie having had no idea who Yorgos Lanthimos was or any of his movies. And when I watched the trailer, I saw it and I'm like, I have to see this movie. I don't remember how I saw it. I don't remember if I saw it through legal or illegal means, but eventually I did watch it and I loved it. And ever since then, I have become a major fan of Yorgos Lanthimos. I have seen most of his movies. I've seen Dogtooth, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite, and the Alps as well. So I've seen 5 of his movies. Most of them I've seen more than once. I think I've seen all of them more than once, actually.
You've seen the Alps more than once?
No, I've only seen the Alps once,
okay.
Actually. And he just stands as this filmmaker with a very distinct voice, and someone with a new movie coming out called Poor Things in a couple of weeks is someone of like uncompromising integrity for what he wants to do. So I'm an unabashed fan of Yorgos Lanthimos, but there's someone else here who has had a little bit of a character redemption arc, I would say, with his views on Yorgos Lanthimos. So Tyler, what's your history with The Lobster and with Yorgos Lanthimos?
So I remember we were in high school and you came in one day and you were like, you guys have to watch The Lobster. And you showed it to me and I was like, no, I have to rewatch Man of Steel or Avengers Age of Ultron or a Marvel movie. I'm not watching this. And you went, please, pretty please. Like, you'll love it. And I went, nope. And then one day I gave in. I think I was in college. And I was like, I don't like this at all. I was like, it's weird. It's dry. It's very slow paced. I watched it all and was like, that sucked. Boo. Wasn't a fan. And then we went and saw The Killing of a Sacred Deer in theaters together in college. And I remember very distinctly the first shot of the movie being like a beating heart.
Yes, like an operation table.
Yeah, and you and I both laughed along with the 2 other people who were sitting in front of us. That movie was very weird. I've seen Killing a Sacred Deer a few times, and I like it. My memory of it is a little bit lower. And then we went and saw The Favorite together at your theater, and we were both like, "Let's fucking go! This movie's awesome." I have not seen it. I rewatched it for this, and then I was like, okay. We did Dogtooth for an old iteration of Film Frauds, which I really liked. And I watched about half of Canetta.
Oh.
Before I went, I'm good. Do you know anything about what Canetta is?
No.
Well, I mean, it's very clear. Like, if you listen to Yorgos in his interviews, he's like, the Greek film, like, program, the industry and even like the schools there are not good. So you can tell the movie he made as like a first debut movie. One is not very, like, people are kind of in the same boat as I am. Where like, it's whatever, but it's very amateurish, not in a bad sense, but it's very clear. Like, this is a guy's first movie. He's finding his footing. It's kind of just like nebulous. There's not a lot of stuff that like happens in it. And it's just like a lot of like images of like these people obsessed with recreating true crime. And I made about with like extreme close-ups and with handheld. So the camera's always moving, always shaking. And I got like halfway through and I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm okay with not.
What is it on?
It's on Canopy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have it through my work and stuff like that. So I was like, cool. And it is whatever. It's like, I didn't finish it. I was like, I don't need to see this. I made about an hour in. I'm like, I'm good. Matt, Yorgos is I like him a lot, actually. He's really grown on me. I rewatched The Lobster, Killing a Sacred Deer fondly, Dogtooth, and Favorite. Like at a certain point, I'm like, oh, I think I like most of his movies. He's a really fucking weird director, and his movies are really weird, and they really stand out in like movies that come out in the last like decade in terms of like style and pace and structure and humor. There are like no others. I can't like I will dissect it more. I imagine when we talk about it, but what about you? What do you think?
I think because as you said, we saw Sacred Deer, Killing a Sacred Deer, and The Favorite together in theaters.
Yeah.
And both times when the movies ended, as soon as the credits started rolling, you screamed, "What the fuck!" out just into the open.
Yeah. Do you remember what the ending of The Favorite is? Do you have any
Yeah, she's getting
recollection?
finger blasted, and the bunnies
Yeah, and the
like
bunnies.
pour onto
Yeah.
the screen.
That was my same reaction last night, where it's like getting finger blasted. But like when the bunnies are on and the faces are overlaid, and I was like, "What the fuck is this, man?" I was like, "What is this?"
Yes,
Do you remember do you remember The Favorite? Because that's a movie that came out in 2018. That
I've
is
seen it
like
twice.
you've seen it twice.
But I haven't watched it for quite. I haven't seen it since like pre-COVID.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on it? Like
It's
rewatching
really
it?
good. It might be
Okay,
my favorite movie of his.
okay.
Yeah, I really like. I don't want to spoil my thoughts on The Lobster, but I really like The Lobster. Uh, the favorite. The favorite is like it finds this really interesting balance between like pure like commercial like modern like movie that appeals to more people, but like weird niche Yorgos movie.
Yes.
It finds this really like because you can argue when it's like super Yorgos, it can kind of be a little odd, maybe not in the best sense, but like The Favorite, there's something like very like appealing about it. I think it might be Emma Stone or Olivia Colman or Rachel Weisz or even Nick. Like all of them are killing it. Uh, yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it that I mean, we'll talk about more with The Lobster that I find myself being like, I'll rewatch The Favorite more times than probably anything else he makes outside of Poor
Okay.
Things because I'll see that this week.
So for Yorgos, for me, what stands out about his filmmaking is like the dark black humor. It's something that I love. We'll talk. I mean, like when we got to we started talking about The Lobster. Pretty much every scene, like I had a dumb, stupid smile on my face rewatching this last weekend, just because it just appeals to me. He's both makes these atmospheres that are like feel detached from reality, but like also like kind of strips away like the bare bones of like our social norms. Like The Lobster tackles dating and relationships,
Yeah.
or choosing not to be in a relationship as well. But like it's in like this borderline like surreal tyrannical society, but at the same time, and like no one acts normally, like no one talks like this on the street, but at the same time there's something really weirdly relatable at it, and like kind of like exposing about it as well, because it does reflect how most of us think. And the same thing with Killing a Sacred Deer reflects like the power dynamics that people have with like their parents, doctors, or God or whatever. Like it's just like they're just meant to like strip down these societal or like personal norms to like their bare essentials and laugh at you and laugh at the characters. But what's interesting about Yorgos as a filmmaker is in interviews, he's always like, from interviews with the actors first of all say he gives very minimal direction. He just goes like, oh, maybe a little bit faster, a little bit slower, or something like that's what Colin Farrell said. He has a very relaxed environment. He's not very controlling, and that reflects how he wants his audience to react to his movies. Because when people are asking him questions about The Lobster, he's like, oh, like people can come up with their own interpretations of the movie. And he did a Mark Maron podcast episode when The Favorite was coming out, where Mark Maron was basically like dissecting like all the movies that he saw and like giving his thoughts. And the Yorgos is like, I should have you do my press conferences. And then so someone will be like, oh, Yorgos, what do you think about that? It's like, I like to pass that question to my friend Mark Maron. And he's very much like he's more curious about how people react to his films rather than giving out what he thinks about his own movies.
Yeah.
Do you get that vibe from his films
Yeah,
and his writing style?
Yeah, because there's like a very interesting when like learning about him and learning about how he makes movies where like learning about the fact that he has a rehearsal process before the movies, which is apparently not super common. There's like in the recent like bout of interviews with like Emma Stone, like the Emma Stone just did the with Bradley Cooper on the Actors on Actors, and she talks, and like Mark Ruffalo did as well with Robert Downey Jr. and they talk about Yorgos having this like 1 month rehearsal process, which for me rewatching a couple of his movies makes a lot of sense as to why, despite like the dry humor and despite like Yorgos being a maybe like an odder character, like an odder, like putting odder movies out there, the chemistry in his movies between actors, despite the drier dialogue, despite like the odder, like stripped down situations that you talked about, they feel very natural and like there's like a group unifying aspect of it because the people like each other in real life. Like they're friends.
Yeah,
They enjoy
you have to
spending
be
time.
able to like. I understand the rehearsal part because like you need to know if you can actually do Yorgos dialogue right or not.
Yeah, like the dry, like I mean, that's
Yes.
probably why he does like multiple movies. Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone. Like he
Well, people
has
love
like
working with him.
people
Yeah.
love working with him, but he clearly like there's a certain type of actor who can do this deadpan, like slight escalation if necessary, but sell the humor a little bit.
Yeah.
That is like it's perfect. Colin Farrell in his movies is the best actor for Yorgos, in my opinion.
We'll get into his performance as David soon.
Yeah.
We talk about, but like, it's Oscar worthy, like what he does
You think
in The
so?
Lobster.
You think?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not dramatic, but it's relative to what he's going for. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so it poses an interesting question before we get into the Lobster review. Is there any like like relatively young auteur filmmaker who has had as much mainstream success as Yorgos while also maintaining his like distinct style?
See, that's what I think is really interesting is I was going through his movies and I was like, The Lobster is like an internet acclaim. Like, I can't remember. I fucking stupid. I didn't do research for it, but like The Favorite, rewatching The Favorite, I'm like, I forgot this was like a massive Oscar nominated movie. Like
Yes.
Poor Things is going to be a massive not Oscar nominated movie.
It has a good chance of winning.
It has a good chance
Oscars.
of maybe. Emma Stone is the one apparently who has the best odds.
I thought Yorgos had a pretty good odds of winning Best Director.
I think initially, but it seems like even just from looking at like the board, like the National Board of Review or the AFI, like Poor Things is up there, but like Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon are
You need these freaking people to win stupid. Like Scorsese, congratulations, you exploited the Native American crisis to win an Oscar. Congratulations. Don't give it to him. He doesn't deserve it.
He talks about that in his movie. He's like,
he doesn't deserve it. Yeah. 5 minutes of a movie that's 3.5 hours long.
I think
you
saw that at 10 p.m. at night. You were tired. We'll talk about that another time. But Yorgos
and stupid Christopher Nolan. Like this guy, just get out.
Watch Oppenheimer. You haven't seen Oppenheimer though.
He's not Yorgos Lanthimos. Yorgos Lanthimos is the most pure filmmaker. Like these frauds, these hacks who make roller coaster rides. Give Yorgos his flowers.
Matt, you're like, I just want to see Yorgos give a speech, an acceptance Oscar.
Yeah, that's
speech.
literally. They're not going to give it to him because he's not going to care.
Yeah,
like, he's gonna be like, oh, I won the Oscar. He's gonna like walk out. He needs Christopher Nolan to be like, filmmaking in cinema is the most important thing, and it's being spearheaded by me. And or Martin Scorsese to go, I'm the reason why people are going to start understanding Native American struggles.
I don't think he's going to do that.
DiCaprio's going to go.
You're really like
I'm putting them all on blast.
You're like Yorgos is here. I'm ready to support him.
Hostiles is a better movie than Killers of the Flower Moon, and I will stand by that.
Wind
River is a better movie. Wind River did more.
Wind River's a good movie.
Actual more commentary than.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. Well, I know you are not the biggest fan of Killers of the Flower Moon. I didn't realize
it's not even that I don't like it. I just think it's fun to make fun of because of how people like are desperate to think that's an important movie.
I do. It's not my favorite movie of the year. I will give you that. I do have ones over it. I do like Oppenheimer a lot, though. I know you haven't seen it. So you can't
I have to see. No, I have to see Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I want to see Oppenheimer as well.
There's something like.
I think people will understand that I'm partially joking.
I hope people will know you're joking. I hope they'll know. We do admittedly like Yorgos.
There's someone who doesn't watch the Oscars either. Like I'm not gonna watch the Oscars this year. I have not watched it in like 10 years. Like I don't care what wins and what doesn't win.
Yeah, no, I will be watching it because I'm a sim. But no, Yorgos is like he's if you look at even like the poster design of him, they're like like he has such a distinct style that like if you showed me a trailer, I'd be like, that's going to be a Yorgos movie. Like watching the Poor Things trailer, because I've seen the trailers have been fucking playing in every single movie I go to, and I've been going to the movies a lot. But like every time it comes on, I'm like, that's a Yorgos movie. Like when Emma Stone in the trailer goes up, is like, excuse me, I have to go punch that baby. You're like, yeah, that's probably a Yorgos movie. Like that fits in with his world. He is very, very unique, but also his movies are fucking good. Like they're all good. All of them are like interesting, fascinating, weird, quirky, but they stand out. And when like the drudge of a lot of movies now with streaming and with a lot of them feel the same, his movies are always like a breath of fresh air. And I think that's why we're not gonna jump the gun, but like The Lobster in my like watching it now, I'm like, I was so wrong. I was so wrong about it. I was so wrong.
And just like he's also a director who's able to manage bigger budgets as well.
What's the
And
budget on
still,
these movies, by the way? Do you know?
I don't know, but I know the favorite. I mean, the favorite and Poor Things must have its biggest budgets, I would assume.
I mean, the favorite is it would be surprising because it is all in one location. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
but I
only,
mean like star power
oh, that's a good
and
point. Yeah.
sets. Like
I
the
can look
stuff
it up.
isn't cheap. But like there's so many other like auteur filmmakers that they're given a bigger budget movie, and then even if it is like driven by their own creativity, it tends not to like be received all that well, or either financially or critically. And for him, for Yorgos at least, it seems like he's able to balance the bigger budget movies while also maintaining his unique voice. And I haven't really seen that in another like auteur filmmaker.
I mean, we may have to completely redact this point because the Poor Things has a $35 million budget.
Yeah.
The favorite was 15 million. The Lobster was 4, and Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Okay, well, $4 million to $35 million budget's a big jump.
It is a big jump, but like in Killing a Sacred Deer budget, Killing a Sacred Deer was I don't know if it has a report. But box office, yeah, I don't know what the budget is on that one. I can look that up. But I mean, in the grand scheme of like we talk about big blockbuster with all these stars and stuff like that. I mean, in comparison, $200 million movies that have like flopped this year, a movie like The Favorite making $15 million and it looks better than most movies out today. Same with even like The Lobster or my memory of Killing of a Sacred Deer or anything I've seen in Poor Things. So far.
I rewatched Killing a Sacred Deer last week and I don't remember anything about it. I blacked out the whole movie.
Did you like it? Did you like it as much in a rewatch? Because I think we've seen it a few times now at this point.
I've seen that was my first ever rewatch. Was last weekend actually.
That was first. Okay.
It's a solid movie. It has flaws, unlike The Lobster, which is perfect. In every way. But it's a worthy movie of the Yorgos Lanthimos resume, I would say.
Do you think with Yorgos, I mean, you're someone who you watch less newer movies than I do. You don't go like, what is your thought on him? Like he's made 5 movies since 2015, like 5 movies in The Lobster, Poor Things, The Favorite, Killing a Sacred Deer. Am I missing one? He made 4 movies.
Yeah, of his new movies.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about like him as like a director who's making 4 movies in a decade? Like compared to new releases, is he like your most anticipated? Is he your favorite director? Like what's your like long-standing?
Like I think if I love Poor Things, he might be my favorite working director.
He might be.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, there's a good chance. I just don't think I just vibe with his storytelling and his comedy and like the use of violence, all mostly being serious most of the time.
Yeah.
I just love everything that he does as a filmmaker. I just like his character as well. Like in interviews, he's very humble. He wants people to draw conclusions on their own. He's not telling you like how to feel, which is great. Like, I mean, I do like the more bombastic personalities in filmmakers as well. Like, I love listening to Tarantino do interviews. Yeah. Like, I love David Lynch doing interviews as well. Even though I don't particularly like his movies, I think it's funny when I like listening to him talk.
Yeah.
Euros with him, it's like he feels like a working man is. Like he feels like just like a normal, like a blue collar worker to a certain extent, who just happens to have a really unique perspective on movies and like is encouraging free thinking while never like feeling like masturbatory.
Yeah,
you know, like a lot of other filmmakers, I think are a little more self-indulgent, and I do like the self-indulgent aspect of filmmaking as well. Yeah. But with him, it feels very pure. It feels very artistic, but also very pure at the same time. And I can't think of another filmmaker who balances the two very like that well.
Do you think The Lobster is one of your favorite movies of the 2010s? Like, is it up there? Yeah,
it's like top 5, I would say.
It's top 5. I mean, it is really fascinating. And this isn't spoiler, like, is it a modern classic? But the reception of his movies as well, where they like The Lobster is like an internet like darling kind of movie at this point now. Killing a Sacred Deer, I feel like has been largely forgotten.
Yes,
as like a weird.
I would say because even with Poor Things getting a lot of attraction, people aren't really talking about Sacred Deer at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like
I feel like Dogtooth has been resurrected more.
Do you think Dogtooth?
People like I've seen more film essays and stuff like on Dogtooth than I have on Killing a Sacred Deer.
I wonder if that's because like Killing a Sacred Deer is like it's a Greek, it's not Greek, but it's a myth. Like it's all a metaphor. It's all
it's Agamemnon killing his daughter.
Yeah, and it's like it's all. But like Lobster, there's a lot of stuff to sink your teeth into. The favorite watching it last night is, I think, like I said, like it's
Iphigenia.
God damn it, you broke my train of thought. It's like it's definitely it's an Oscar movie. It's more of a mainstream movie, but it still has a lot of that like. Killing a Sacred Deer is a weird movie. It's probably out of like The Lobster, out of Dogtooth. Out of his most
Yeah.
recent ones, I haven't seen The Alps. That's a big one. It's probably my least favorite.
It's his messiest. I would say, having rewatched it, the second half of the movie is cinema.
It's
Uh,
pure.
it's
Is that when they can't walk?
It's cinema with a capital Scorsese.
Yeah. Is that when they refuse to walk or eat or whatever, or move?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
like
point?
I think when they kidnap the little boy, with the boy who's cursed them, and like they're like
Okay.
beating him and like trying to like figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
In the movie, in the first half, it can't decipher whether it wants to go for full Yorgos or like be somewhat in reality. Because of
Yeah.
those other movies, everything feels very isolated. Whereas here, it's like very firmly like there's a lot of backdrops of like a giant city and things
Ooh,
like that.
that's
So
a
it
good
feels
point. Yeah.
it doesn't feel as isolated. And that works in these detriment because it can never. Sometimes you can't tell. They seem like they're dodging in and out of being like a Yorgos movie and like just like
Okay.
a suspense movie as well.
Well, that's what I'm kind of interested.
Yeah.
Like is the Alps, because Dogtooth is primarily set in that house, and they kind of venture
Yeah.
to like the work. Where's
You know what the Alps is about?
Well, I don't know what the Alps is about now.
It's it's so messed up. It's so basically they're professional. It's like this like comedy or like a actor troupe where they'll play like deceased loved ones for family members. I mean, for people like this girl, the woman who plays the heartless woman in The Lobster is the lead, and she plays like the lover for this guy whose girlfriend recently died, and like he tells her how to react to certain things and stuff like that.
I can envision like the Yorgos, like I can envision it completely. Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, but it's not a horror movie. Like I feel like Sacred Deer is his only like true like quote unquote horror suspense film
Yeah.
that I've seen. Whereas the other ones are like kind of like black comedies, dramas, or like character studies or some kind of mixture of them. Yeah, that's how Sacred Deer distinguishes itself. It feels more part of the real world, and also it's more of like a suspense movie. But it gets great. It just takes a little while to get.
Yeah, because that's what I'm kind of curious about. Because Dogtooth is a more isolating movie. The Lobster, despite it, and we'll talk about it, it is set in a world, and we do see that world a little bit. It does feel inherently isolating, but we could talk about that. The Favorite is entirely like close-ups, fisheye lens in one location in a house, like by dark lighting, like you're bookended by like large ornate ceilings and walls. And then Poor Things, I mean, I haven't seen Poor Things yet. Poor Things is a movie I'm seeing this week, and I know you and I will probably go see it when it goes wide, when I'm home for Christmas, because we'll have to go.
We'll bring our ladies.
I don't know if we want to bring them.
We'll see how they react.
You know what I did?
Whether the relationships continue.
I showed Olive, Olive loves movies. I showed her the trailer for Poor Things. I'm like, do you want to go see this with me? She went, no. I was like, Olive, no.
What is not appealing about that trailer? I don't understand.
I think she'll see it when it comes.
Willem Dafoe plays Dr. Frankenstein. Like, Emma needs to get her priorities straightened out, because I can't think of anything more tempting than.
I mean, come on, Olive.
Did you not see how Mark Ruffalo said "ow" when he got
or when he yells Bella?
Masterpiece.
I cannot wait for Mark Ruffalo. I love Mark Ruffalo. Okay. Yes, but I think if you and I go see Poor Things, I think it's just gonna be you and I talking. We're gonna completely ignore everybody else. We're gonna be like, look at these fucking things.
I'll be staring at every film audience member, making sure they react properly, even though I haven't seen the movie yet.
There's a joke and you laugh and you turn around. You're like, you laugh? Did you pay enough money? Go buy another ticket. Yeah. I like to think you harass people. You're like, go see it again. You didn't get it
right now.
Yeah, right now. You push them back. You're like, go sit. We're playing it again. Do you remember if Mark likes The Lobster? What do you remember?
I remember we saw the Favorite with him, and he didn't like, or wasn't as big of a fan of it.
We saw The Favorite with Mark?
Yes.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. He didn't
like it as much. I don't know if
he's
seen The Lobster. He liked Dogtooth. I think he gave it an A.
He did like Dogtooth.
Yeah.
Did you rewatch that episode? How were we in it?
I haven't rewatched it in full. I think we were good. We were probably perfect. Well, I was probably perfect. I think you gave it a B because you're a Marvel loving.
I'm a stupid loser. Okay, The Lobster, Matt. Yes. This is a very odd movie. I took notes on this, but like the last couple movies that we've been talking about, I take a bunch of notes, and then at a certain point, the movie enraptures me, and then I forget to take notes. So I have notes up until like I said, "You are my best friend" to "You are so ugly." Is my last note that I've taken, and I don't really.
When he's talking to John C. Reilly's character,
yeah, when he's like, I like when he shoots him. He's like, "You're my best friend." I'm just kidding. You're so ugly. Nobody
Yeah,
likes you.
'cause
And then shoots.
when he's trying to get him to take pity on him.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
doesn't work.
it's like, do you think an extra day is going to make any difference for you?
Yeah, you're so ugly. You're like, oh my God, this is great.
Who's
That was
he's the
my
guy with the limp. Oh, I forgot about him because I'm just you're such your best friend.
yeah, your best friend. Yeah. And then you are so ugly.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah, that was the last note I took. And then you can probably see at that point where I was like, well, then I just kept watching it through. What do you think of the Lobster? I think if we haven't already spoiled it already.
Okay. On this rewatch, first of all, I watched an interview with Yorgos Lanthimos where he said this is not a dystopia for him. It's when he was creating this world, he wanted it to be vaguely like ours, just with slightly different rules. So that was pretty interesting because I always assumed it was a dystopia, which I mean, I guess it's subjective when he wants to be subjective, but how the first 15 minutes of this movie and how it establishes this world so perfectly, like the tone of the movie, the rules of the world, and the characters, because there are multiple characters in this movie that they're all like one note, but they're purposefully one note. And even behind that one note, there are layers to that. Like the limping man isn't just a limping man, or the lisping man isn't just a lisping man. Like they all have different layers to their characters. So like the first scene is basically him driving to the hotel where because he recently broke up with his girlfriend, and the rules of this world are that you cannot be single. You have to be in a relationship. If you're not in a relationship, you go pick this hotel where you will meet another date or form a relationship with someone. If you don't within 30 days, you get turned into the animal of your choosing. Why this happens is never explained, and how it happens is never explained, but that's the point. And no one ever questions it because those are the rules of this world, and like how we live in our own society. There are just things that we take for granted, like green light meaning go. We assume that means go, because that's what we're born into. Those have been the rules for decades and decades and decades, hundreds of years, things like that. And so it basically starts out with him talking to the receptionist, where he's like, "Oh, are you gay or straight?" And he goes, "Straight, but I one time had a boyfriend in college. Is there a bisexual option?" There's no bisexual option. He gets his shoes. He's between he's a 10 and a half, but he can only choose between 10 and 11.
Nothing's
Again,
halfway.
these little rules,
yeah.
There's no compromise. Everything is, and then which we'll show later on when he meets the this is the outcast, the single society, where in that society you can't be in a relationship or you get your tongue cut out. Those first 15 minutes I think really perfectly explain what this movie is about, and such like beauty. And like the pace of it too. Like for example, when you have Olivia Colman's character and her husband there, when they're giving the assembly conference explaining like why they're all there, and then they're sitting there stationed like that, and then it cuts to them in the same position but in the ballroom singing, doing Something's Got a Hold of My Heart. Just the pace of the movie within the first 20 minutes is so excellent. Did you feel the same way? Like when you're watching this movie, was it immediate that you realized the movie's actually good, or did it take a long time for you?
Yeah, it was within like 5 minutes where I was like, I think I was wrong. And I think it was entirely like this acceptance of like what type of movie it was.
Yeah.
Because like it's a weird, I think if you
he likes About Time, and they're like I love you.
I
How
like
could
my
you do this to me.
I like my emotions clear, stated. I want no subtlety. I want all the answers. No,
big giant tub of ice cream.
I want to watch. Matt is saying this because I watched Godzilla versus Kong at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday last week. I sent you a picture at like 7:45.
I didn't even justify it with a response.
I know you didn't respond to me. I was like, look at this.
I'm not gonna validate.
You're
like my students. Any sort of validation is good validation. It can be negative reinforcement or positive. You just want it. I'm like, I'm not giving you anything.
No, you got to tell me it's okay to watch Godzilla versus Kong for the third time.
The third time?
I've seen the movie 3 times. I've seen Godzilla King of Monsters like 5 times. Okay, besides the point. My time is valuable. I watch good stuff. I think it's really interesting, this movie, because when you're watching it from our perspective, like a normal human being's perspective, you're like, why are these characters so odd?
Godzilla versus Kong 3 times.
Oh my gosh, shut the fuck you. When you're like, hey, this is why are the characters reacting like this? And it's this interesting revelation to be like, the characters are so deadpan in this movie, and it not only works with Yorgos' style, but the characters react like this because it's just their culture, it's just their world. Yeah. It's like to them, this is not abnormal. I mean, there's this of course like touch of sadness like underneath everything in the movie, whether it's Ben Winshaw's character, the limping man, who he's like, my wife died 6 days ago, she was very beautiful and I loved her a lot, Like now have a limp.
Yeah.
And you
And then
like
the
get
next
the
girl comes up and she's like, people tell me I have a nice smile.
yeah. And you're like, yeah, you're like, oh, okay. And or it's
Yeah.
like that, or it's like Colin Farrell's dog, like in the movie is revealed to be his brother who went to this hotel and did not make it. And there's this, or
Yeah, he didn't make it.
he didn't make it, or the revelation from Olivia Colman that the reason that there are endangered animals and species in the world is because not enough people are choosing those animals when they don't make it.
Yeah.
And it's this or like when they just have problems, it's like, well, you'll get a kid and the kids will fix it. And if not, it doesn't
Yes.
work.
And if there's any
It's
problems with the given children, that normally helps.
that
I
normally
laugh
help.
every time that
Yeah,
every
it's the
time he
funniest
says
line in the
that.
movie. It's so good. And there's just a lot of really great little subtle moments that you're like, this is a fleshed out world that feels viable because the characters don't react to it because it's their normal. Oh, they have to go to the hotel. It's
Yes.
just it's an expectation and a norm. So you always are with the characters when it's happening. It's very, very fascinating. It's a wonderfully odd movie.
And it makes you question like what rules in your own society you take for granted that you don't normally question, things or like social norms or norms that like from your family, like these pressures, these like deadlines you set for yourself, like the 30-day deadline for to find a relationship could be like a metaphor for like, oh, I need to be married by the time I'm 30 or something like that, like something arbitrary that someone decides because they want to look young in their wedding photos or something, and then so they would rush into a relationship and that doesn't work out. Like there's so many like flawed ways of thinking that people do in our normal society as well that seem logical to us because it's in our own head and it's been influenced by since like literally the day we were born. But this movie just makes you just like exposes the stuff really well.
Yeah.
And I want to just give credit to Colin Farrell in this movie.
Yeah. He's really
his
good.
character David like doesn't question his society. Like he obeys the rules of the society to the exact T, basically. Like he thinks he never questions anything for the most part. And his character is very subdued as well, because most characters are subdued. And he's kind of like this normal, like everyday man. But there are some instances where he does show emotion really well, but through like under like the mask of looking like a dull person.
Yeah.
For example, when he starts romancing the heartless woman, and she finds out that he actually has a heart because he groans while they're having sex.
Yeah.
And he kicks his brother to death. And when he wakes up, she's like, I kicked your brother to death when he's making a sound like this. Like, and he's straight faced, and he goes, I think I'm gonna go wash my face. And there's just so much sorrow.
Yeah.
But the emotion he's balancing of like his character's kind of like a dull-headed person versus he knows if he exposes himself to the heartless woman, he's gonna be in trouble. Versus my brother just got kicked to death.
Yeah,
like,
it's
he does that so well.
Yeah, it's just like cultural versus like survival versus like pure emotion. This combat, he's really fucking good in this movie. And that was like the shocking thing is when I watched it when I was like 18 and I was like, this is boring. But like watching it now, you're like, this is the most fascinating movie I've seen in like a hot minute. Like this is really, really interesting to kind of observe. I wonder what you think about like the narration. Because that was something that was interesting to me, and I wonder why Yorgos did it. Because the narration is revealed to be Rachel Weisz narrating over, and eventually their paths converge, and the narration goes away because now they're
it's still there. Like when they're talking, because like when they're talking about like their hand signals.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's like it's like when we nod left, it means we're in danger. We must leave. If we nod right,
it means I love you very much.
You more than anything in the world. It's like a while for us to distinguish between hide, we're in danger, and I love you more than anything else in the world.
I know. I can imagine you at your house, like at night in the dark, just cackling to this.
Oh my god!
What'd you think of the narration?
I mean, Rachel Weisz, I think, is great. Or like, because even her character starts playing a role into the narration as well. Like when she first meets David, and he's like, I imagine us in a house, and I'm wearing blue jeans. It's like very romantic, and then I imagine him fucking me up the ass, and then someone comes in and murders us.
Yeah.
Like what?
You're like, huh. Interesting fantasy, but all right.
Yes, but I don't know. I love the narration. The only issue I have with the movie is like that dun 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 dun.
You don't like the dramatic
cue.
Oh, see, I love. Okay, so I love that when, especially when he's walking up to ask the woman to dance. Like, are you talking
Oh,
about
I
that?
mean, I liked it. I feel like it got overused by the movie's end.
See, like, I think this is like, because to me, I was like, oh, this is a movie about like a culture. Like, it's a movie about this odd like world and stuff like that in a culture. And the reason like these heightened music things are like, one, like half the movie we're watching like mating rituals from like animals. It's like it's
Yes.
basically it's like the most toned down like animalistic based stuff. Like when he's walking over to the girl during the dance and it like swells in slow motion, this orchestral music. It's because
Something's got a hold of
yeah,
my
because
heart.
it's dramatic. It's like in this world, it's a big moment because it's essentially
Yeah,
like
it
a
just
mating.
feels like you're watching like animals mate.
Yeah, and
But like
it's
everyone's wearing the same dress or the same suit as well,
yeah,
and it's like a commentary on like how all dating is kind of like the same
yeah.
and
It
things like that. And
I mean, everybody who finds a match is like, oh, my nose bleeds sometimes. My nose
yeah,
bleeds sometimes, and then they're married. And
or
it's
like
just
John C.
uh,
Reilly dancing with the Heartless Woman, and they're both
yeah.
kind of like they're not touching at all, and they're just kind of like walking like
Just-
dancing like
That's
that.
how they know. That's how I danced in high school. Just don't touch
And
me.
I don't know, like I just love that song they were singing, like Olivia, and like when Olivia Colman and her husband start dancing as well, like it's just
Yeah.
like they just start going like that, and like you think this is like a dystopian society, and yet they still like make this extra measure of having live music for
Yeah.
for the dating ceremony,
Yeah.
and then the ending when the curtains get pulled and it's like midday,
Yeah.
it's not even like nighttime.
Yeah. It's like, all right, activity's over. Go to the next thing.
Yeah,
Go to the next propaganda where if a woman is walking at night, the man will be murdered and she'll be raped, I think is what the movie
yeah,
was.
but even then it's like it's supposed to be like like when he's raping her, it doesn't look real, but he
Yeah.
still takes his pants off.
Yeah.
Like in front of everyone.
Yeah, it's a fucking weird. Like, I really wonder what it's like when it's like Yorgos is like, I have this movie idea, and he goes to a studio, and he's like, it's gonna be $4 million, and it's gonna be
Mm.
weird as fuck, and they're like, okay,
You know
sure.
the maid in the movie?
Is his wife? Yeah,
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 yeah.
I know that one. I was especially when like there's also a part of the movie with the maid character is like every morning she has to like jerk off Colin Farrell, so like
Yeah. She
they
like
are
dry humps him
yeah,
until yeah.
and because like in
But
this
not but only until like right before he's gonna
yeah,
orgasm. Because you can't orgasm until you're in a relationship.
exactly, yeah,
Because John C. Reilly masturbates and then gets his hand put in a toaster.
yep. Or no, you can't do it yourself. It's like it's a movie that has stripped down, like you said, like I mean, a lot of his movies, like rewatching The Favorite, I mean, it's basically a movie just highlighting the stupidity of the elites, like the
Yeah.
aristocracy, the bureaucracy. Like these people are fools who are just making like changes off of whims and emotions that drastically impact. I mean, the catalyst of the movie of The Favorite is I mean, the A plot of it is Emma Stone getting in the good graces of Olivia Colman, but the B plot is like they're funding a war they don't really necessarily need to fight, and they want
Yeah.
to just raise the sale. They want to double the sales tax or the land
Yeah.
tax, and would ruin like the country. And it's these people making these decisions that will just it's just foolish. And this one is just a highlighting of the absurdity of relationships and connections. And there's no black and white. Everything's gray. Everything's really absurd, and it makes no sense. Because you're right, the analogy of like it's like we have these weird societal norms of like, oh, if you're 40 and not married, why? Like everybody, it's like even instinctually, you kind of take a second, you're like even if you don't like mean to, I think we've been conditioned to be like there are certain ages and milestones. Like 30,
Yeah.
you have married and have kids, and 40, you're settled down for 10 years and you have 3 kids and a white picket fence. Like we have
Then you
these
look at
very
like the US divorce statistics, like 50% of marriages end in divorce. So it's
yeah.
like clearly is like
I thought that was a myth. I thought that number was
I
a
don't know,
myth.
like but
Ye-
there's a lot of divorces. Like I know
Yeah.
more people that are divorced than together, you know.
Yeah, I do actually like
Or quite a few amount of people who are divorced.
there is something interesting because like typically when we think of like these like when we think of what this movie is like riffing off of with like societal conventions, it's like very like heteronormative often. Like we think of it as
Mm.
like man and wife, 3 kids, white picket fence. But I this movie is like, oh, heterosexual, homosexual. It's like you just better be in a fucking pair. Like you better be
Yeah.
with somebody. And it's kind of, I mean, that is ultimately like a very interesting look of the movie too. Like
It's interesting because like it's a society that doesn't like it's not like prejudice against race or sexuality.
yeah,
Like no one's racist, no one is a homophobe or anything, but you just have to be in a relationship.
you just have to be in a relationship,
So
and that's where
it's-
yeah you and you
or you
have
get
the
turned
group,
into an animal.
yeah, and it's like interesting as like that the animals, like, you get turned into, like, there's a couple shots in the woods where like a camel walks by
Yes,
in
or
the
like a
background.
flamingo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're
random
like,
things.
you're like,
What?
oh, I guess somebody, like, I wonder what happened to John C. Riley. What animal he like turned it? I can't remember what he said, but
He wanted to be a parrot, and they
he wanted to
said
be
he
a
was an
parrot.
idiot because parrots are are an animal that can speak.
Yeah,
And it's like you have a list. Why would you want an animal that speaks?
yeah.
He goes, "Oh,
Or
we can all talk to each other."
or Colin Farrell, who's like, I want to be a lobster, and they're like,
Yeah,
okay, sure,
lobster's an
man.
excellent
What
choice.
animal would you be?
Rhinoceros.
I'd be an eagle. I want to fly.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. A
I would
rhinoceros.
squash you.
I go. That. So I mean, outside of all that, like, what other stuff really stood out to you? Because like, this movie's essentially divided into two sections.
Yeah, I
It's-
think we should talk about the hotel stuff first because they're both very distinct sections. I
Yeah.
think
So
my favorite part of the hotel stuff was him romancing the heartless woman because
yeah.
it's like he doesn't want to date the biscuit lady because the biscuit lady's kind of normal looking, like she's not hot. Like that's basically
You
why.
think is that why? Yeah. Or I thought it was
She's
like
hot and she's desperate. Like she's desperate to find someone. She's like, oh, I'll cook for you. Like she's always calling him
yeah.
and things like that. And he's like, I'll kill myself if I before I get turned into an animal. So
Yeah.
it shows that there's like one person who actually doesn't want to be like in a relation, like doesn't want to be turned, who's like kind of questioning her society and
Yeah.
doesn't want to follow the rules. But like the fact that he decides to romance the heartless woman and then has to put on the facade of being heartless because the limping man pretended to get nosebleeds in
Yeah.
order to get a relationship with the nosebleed woman. And like there's just so many funny scenes of like when he first meets her, they're in the hot tub and she pretends to be choking
Yeah.
on like rape or something. And he just or on an olive and he just sits there
Yeah.
and you can tell he wants to do something, but he doesn't. And
Yeah,
that's
he's
what
unsure,
convinces
yeah.
her. And then when when the biscuit lady falls to her almost death and is screaming
Yeah.
on the ground and and he's like he goes up to the heartless lady woman and he's like I hope she stands there for a while. I just like want to hear her scream. A second thought, I was thinking about taking a nap and I kind of hope she dies quickly so I don't have to listen to her.
It's just watching how he conforms and lies.
She's like there's blood and biscuits everywhere.
I just
But
like,
even then, like the violence is very brutal. Like he's screaming.
she's literally like in blood, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like what happens? Like she jumped off the first floor or whatever. It's like she should have gone higher, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, or when, or when the limping man Ben Winshaw's character comes up with the kid,
Yes.
he's like hi, and he kicks her, and he's like, look at you, now you can be like your dad.
Kicks her in the yeah.
You're like nice.
That's
great.
our protagonist.
Yeah, that's our protagonist. He's great. Or, I mean, and then eventually, like you're right. You talk about like these subtle things of emotion. I mean, he takes revenge against her for killing his
Yeah.
brother. I mean, he turns him into an animal of we don't know what it is.
Yeah, the animal that no one wants to be. That's all it.
Yeah, and I
They
really
say,
wonder
yeah.
what do you? I wonder what that is.
I was thinking a pig because they show a pig later.
They do show up, but you wonder if it's a pig, like
Yeah.
unloved. Like I mean, but they're little like pig. I don't know.
Yeah, but they get eaten. Like,
They do get eaten. I don't know. There's definitely like, well, first off, the movie opens completely out with like a woman driving and shooting a pony,
a cow.
a cow.
Oh,
or-
pony. Yeah.
There's a pony in the head. And then it cuts to Colin Farrell's wife leaving him, and he's like, did he have glasses? And she's like, yes. And you're like, at first you're like, I don't get it. And it's revealed like, oh, because they're based on such like simple connections that like the wife has glasses and she met another person with glasses. And that's usually what happens. Or the person who kills the pony is maybe a relative of somebody who didn't make it, or we don't
Yeah.
really know
Ex-lover or something.
Yeah, and something we don't really know with that. And it's these little like flourishes, or the fact that we're jumping ahead a little bit, they go into the real world and there are police around. It's like, are you by yourself? Show me
Yeah.
your marriage license. It's like these constant little things that illustrate this larger potential for a world. And it's all very fascinating, and it all flows within a very similar logic. And it makes this movie feel extremely cohesive.
And so,
for
yeah,
something
most people are thinking like they need to find a similarity with someone to romance them, which is why David fakes being heartless because he thinks he needs to be heartless to romance a heartless woman.
Yep.
But you can compare that to like dating apps, like
Mhm.
Hinge or Bumble. It's like your character traits, like, oh, I'm enthusiastic, I like hiking, I like movies.
Superficial. Yeah.
It's a similar thing. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
he likes movies too. Like I'll swipe right.
Yeah.
It's not that different.
I mean, this movie was made in 2015, let's say 2014, like the rise of dating
Yeah.
apps, the rise of Tinder, the rise of this kind of stuff. I mean, Yorgos is clearly like, this movie is not subtle in what it is criticizing and what it is
No.
satirizing in any capacity. It's the superficiality, the absurdity of how we deem relationships and partnerships and how flimsy they are, but also at the same time, how they can mean more. I really like I when I think of this movie, I think of that Ben Winshaw speech at the beginning where he's just talks about like that line of just like my wife died 6 days ago. I loved her very much and she was and she was very beautiful. Like that is not a line that we like I loved her very much and we were very beautiful. It implies a deeper connection. It implies
Yeah.
something is there. It's something so sad and so lost.
Which is he doesn't get that at all with the nosebleed
Exactly. Because he's
lady.
faking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something like very fascinating that sits with you about this movie. And it's also why I don't love this movie. And it's because I think the stuff outside the hotel I was not as big of a fan of.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
So you get
yeah.
your first glimpse of the single outcast society is when the hotel staff bring the hotel guests
Yep.
or prisoners basically to go hunt for them, and if they can and they can whoever they can capture, they get extra days added to their stay at the hotel. So the Heartless Woman has like 150 days or something
Yeah.
because she just loves hunting people.
She's good
Loves
at it.
hunting. Yeah, she's good at it. And so later on, when he gets exposed to actually having a heart to the Heartless Woman, and then he has that hilarious scene where he tries not to cry,
Yep.
looking at his dead brother.
Yeah.
And then he has to leave. He joins that society. That's where he meets Rachel Weisz. He meets Leia Sadu, who's the head of this society. And you get similar rigid rules that don't really make any sense because you're not allowed to be in a relationship at all. And if you are, you're on your own in every single way. If you get caught kissing someone, you get your tongue cut out. It's very
It's not
severe
tongue cut. If you
punishments.
get caught kissing, it's
Oh,
like
lips.
your lips get cut. Yeah.
Cut, yeah. Lips, you're right. And so even something as simple as like this guy gets his foot stuck in a bear trap and no one can help him because he has to be on his own.
Yeah.
Like things like that make no sense.
Or you
What
dig your
about
own
this part?
grave kind of thing, or like you have to dig a grave in the woods, and if
Yes.
you get caught or that, you had better go crawl to it because we're not going to help you, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I would agree that the movie is not as good once we get to the Outcast Society. Like, what specifically did you not like?
So, I mean, I want to clarify. I liked it a lot. This movie is far better than I remember, but there is a certain level of like, it feels like we're repeating a lot of the sequences of the first section, but without a lot of the subtle either character moments or like subtle like sadness seeped underneath.
The characters aren't as defined.
They aren't
half.
They're far more. I mean, you focus more on the relationship, this like courting between Rachel Weisz and Colin Farrell, and this society of people who they just kind of like are in the woods. Like that's it. They just sit in the woods, and and to me it's just a little less interesting. And this is where like big criticism of my Yorgos movies are always going to be the pacing, because a movie is slower, because the movie has drier humor, it takes its time.
There's no Godzilla going.
It's not. Yeah, there's no Godzilla. Yeah, if there's not a giant robot Godzilla punching a giant monkey, then I am bored.
No, I mean, but when you inevitably like take the time to slow down, if you aren't as invested, I feel like in the characters, then the pacing of the movie slows down a little bit. And this is where it's like, I really, really, really love the hotel stuff, the world building, the routines, the aspects of it, the different type of characters, the level of depth, like you said, both on and under the surface. I mean, John C. Reilly's character is also someone fascinating, of someone who is not like conventionally attractive in this world, and people kind of like point it out. Like, and it's like a very like interesting like look at what happens maybe in this, and like you said with the biscuits, like, and then they go into the woods and they kind of just like run around and they go into the city, like, and it's and then it kind of ends, and you're like, oh, okay. I don't know. What do you think? Because this is more your love of a movie. You love this movie.
Yeah, I would say it's not as strong. There's still funny moments.
Yeah,
like I said, like the sign language, like how they can communicate about anything through sign language, and I do like the chemistry between Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz. The fact like they're both brainwashed by their society because they think that they're in love because they're both short-sighted, whereas like they're in love because of this like intangible reason. Like they just have a connection that can't be described, which is like how most people like actually like fall in love with someone they're truly in love with. And which then later on, when she loses her eyesight, like it messes them up. Their love is still there, but they can't understand that it's still there. And they think they think their love was surrounded by their eyesight when in fact it wasn't.
Yeah.
I said the movie like definitely kind of like tumbles to an end. I think some of it's on purpose. but I
Mhm.
think also at the same time it is anticlimactic in an unsatisfying way as well. But I like the scenes of them in Dublin in the city because like it shows like their relationship growing, and you see Lea Seydoux getting jealous
Yeah.
of that stuff. But she's another character who is like ardent in her creed, and she won't sway at all.
Yeah.
Um,
Except that I mean, she initiates like physical contact and like hugs people, which is like she doesn't sway. She's very strict. I mean, you see people who have suffered the consequences of what are they called, the loners or
the
something like
loners,
that?
yeah,
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 who break the like you see that stuff happens, but and she ultimately inevitably like again, we're spoiling the fuck out of this movie, but Colin Farrell like ties her up and like leaves her to be eaten by wild dogs. Like
yes,
but she is this like clear follower of these rules, but she initiates contact and hugs people, which is not like, I don't know if it's forbidden. They don't really spell that out, but it's definitely an interesting character moment. I think a lot of my stuff in maybe like hesitancy with the second part of the movie is it doesn't feel like, I mean, it focuses on the Rachel Weisz and Colin Farrell character, and I just don't think they're as interesting with just themselves, and the characters surrounding them aren't as interesting because I mean, Yorgos movies like survive on the strength of the oddities of the characters, and the first half is so great, it's so excellent. The second half isn't, and you're right. Like I think Yorgos also does have his movies endings are kind of sometimes can be hit or miss. I mean, many of them, like Killing of a Sacred Deer, kind of ends on that little dramatic stinger. This one kind of ends on that uncertainty. The Favorite kind of ends with a little like, oh, there
yeah.
it is kind of thing. And I don't remember the ending. What's the ending of Dogtooth? I don't remember the ending of
When
that.
when the daughter gets out of the car, because remember she puts herself in the trunk,
Oh,
and then
she
it ends
gets
with
out.
the dad driving off, and then he
Yeah.
parks the car outside, and then it ends with her opening the trunk door.
Okay. So a little bit of an escape. Okay. And I wonder how the ending of Poor Things in, and maybe when we eventually do Poor Things for
I'm
this
sure it'll be very
podcast.
traditional.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be very, very normal movie. I don't know. Like,
There's a couple of funny lines. Like I like it when it's like we listen to techno music because no one dances with someone else. Everyone
yeah.
dances alone.
Yep.
And
And
then
they're just,
and then he comes out from the woods, and then Lea Seydoux is like, "Where'd you go?" And he goes, "I was just over there masturbating." Like that's something you would never say,
yeah.
like normally.
Yeah. But it works for them because it's
Yeah,
a
but in this
solitary.
society, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
solitary thing, so it's not a big deal for the society.
Or,
So like
or
things
when
like
they're,
that.
or when they're making out in front of Lea Seydoux's parents. They're
Oh
like, we're
yeah, because
so in
yeah,
love. And they're just, and she's
yeah,
like, stop it. Show some respect in front of my parents. And you're like,
yes.
what the fuck is this? You're like, so interesting. What do you think of the ending? What do you think of, what decision do you think he makes? Do you think, or what do you just think of the ending as a whole?
I think because he proves that he lies a lot throughout the movie. I think he's gonna lie about
I
being
was,
blind.
I was
Yeah,
thinking that too. He's going to be like, I'm blind. I can't see and just make it up.
yeah, that's my prediction.
That was my prediction too. We're on the same page.
Yeah,
Yorgos fans, look at that. Um,
that night gets wicked close to his eye. Like I don't know
yeah,
how Colin Farrell did that.
yeah.
He gets so anxious. I even though I've seen the movie so many times, like right at the end, I always start scratching like a chair or something. It's like because it gets wicked close.
Yeah, because I mean, you've seen Yorgos movies. If you've never seen The Lobster before, one, his movies don't ever seem like they end at a conventional climactic like resolution. So you're like, oh, there must be like 10 more minutes, and then it's just like, and then just The Lobster, or it cuts back to Rachel Weisz waiting, and you hear
Yeah.
like the commotion in the background, and you're like, oh, it's the ending, it's over. Yeah, I really like this movie. I like this movie a lot. Do you have any like other observations or stuff?
Let me
Any
check my
fine?
notes.
I took notes too. Yeah, I think for me, ultimately, it comes down to like the first half of this movie being excellent and the second half of this movie being
Yeah.
good.
Oh, I just wanted to say I love the shot early on in the movie where he's standing in this hotel room next, like in front of the window in his underwear.
Yep.
Like I just love that shot.
Just of him in
It's
his
so
underwear.
mundane and sad. I just think it's great. But I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about
Yeah.
for the
Should
Lobster.
we?
Now we decide if it's a modern classic.
What do you think? So, okay, so real quick, modern classic. So ultimately, the point of this episode is for us to basically identify movies that we think are going to be modern classics. So 30 years down the line, we can look back and be like, yeah, this was a representative of this time period, or this is a movie that we still kind of think about as like a staple of cinema, or like it's been like canonized, or it's part of like the film canon, or whatever, however you want to define it. Which ones have we done so far? Which ones have been canonized? Which ones have we been like,
Once
yes,
Upon a Time in Hollywood,
yes, wait,
Birdman.
Birdman. Okay, let me go look at our podcast before, so people can get, if this is your first time listening, you can get an understanding of maybe what we're
Get Out.
we did do Get Out. So we did do we say no on Gone Girl?
Yeah, we said no on Gone Girl.
We said no on The Last Jedi, no
Yeah,
on
we
Gone
said
Girl.
no on First Reformed, even though it's the best movie we've talked about.
Iron Man, we said yes. Get Out, we
Yes.
said yes. Birdman, we said yes.
Yes. Yeah, we said
Okay.
yes.
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood said yes. Decision to Leave, we said no.
Yeah, we said no decision. Don't
Irishman, we said
no.
no as well. Okay. What do you think of
Because-
this one?
So I think it's one of the best movies of the 2015. I think it's a personal favorite movie in 2010s for me. So I'll make an argument here. Hear me
Okay.
out. So I think Yorgos Lanthimos' stars on the rise.
Yes.
And even though like I think Dogtooth is his first great movie, I think The Lobster is his first English language movie, and also like the movie that got his name on the map for like more mainstream audiences, which then led to him working with Colin Farrell again, working with Nicole Kidman, then working with Emma Stone, Olivia Colman,
Yep.
Rachel Weisz. I'm going to argue it is a modern classic because I think this is the kickoff for his mainstream success in his career, and because Yorgos Lanthimos I think is going to be like a hallmark director of the 2010s and potentially 2020s as well. I think this movie is like an undeniable key component of his repertoire that when film people studying his movies for decades to come, like how do you look over this movie? It's his first English language movie. It's his first movie with working with mainstream actors. And I think it reminded people that Colin Farrell could do serious roles again.
What came out around this time for Colin Farrell?
He
Do you
did like
remember-
Total Recall a couple of years before, like the Total
Oh,
Recall
yeah.
remake. And then like since then he's been in like more serious movies like again.
Let me, because I
yeah,
mean,
we should
you
look up because he was in Seven Psychopaths as well around that time. So it's not like he was doing good movies. So maybe I'm wrong on
you
that
do
regard.
have an argument. Like this is one of those like, remember how we talked about First Reformed and we're like, we fucking love that movie, but probably not because Paul Schrader has movies that like, it's just not like, but like The Lobster.
But I feel like because Paul Schrader, like his defining movies are him in his like 30s and 40s, whereas like Yorgos is in that prime age right now of like when he's making his banger movies, you know.
So this is ultimately like, okay, so Killing of so he did The Lobster. See, this is the thing. We say he did that, but then he did Lobster. He did like Fantastic Beasts. He did Roman J. Israel Esquire. He was in Beguiled. He did
Fantastic Beasts
Dumbo.
is the only good Fantastic Beasts movie though.
Yeah, but like Colin Farrell fully hasn't gone like full. Like he does like Ava. He does Artemis Fowl. He does Dumbo. Yeah, he does like he's in this movie.
Well, I mean, before that, he was doing Horrible Bosses, Fright Night, Total Recall.
Yeah,
like like even though The Beguiled and J. Ezra Esquire aren't like amazing movies, they're still like director driven.
Yeah,
films,
I mean he's playing like a kind of like a sexy, charismatic, like successful lawyer in Roman J. Israel Esquire. Okay, so here's the argument. If we basically like our First Reformed argument was basically like it didn't do a lot of this stuff, but it's a very internet popular movie. Like it's like if you think of like you go back and like what are the best movies of these years, that First Reformed is gonna be up there. If you love movies, I think First Reformed is a movie you're like one of the better ones. But if it's in terms of a modern classic in like the culture, it had no like wasn't nominated for any Oscars. Paul Schrader made like Card Counter and Master Gardener after, which people really didn't see. This is a similar argument, but Yorgos is entering a prime.
But I would not say like those Paul Schrader movies got nowhere near the attention that any movie that Yorgos has made post The Lobster has gotten.
Yeah, because The Favorite is an Oscar nominated. The Poor Things is a major movie. The Poor Things,
Yes.
I went to go see it this weekend, and I know it's not much because I live in Los Angeles, a massive city with a lot of people who love movies. But Poor Things is sold out in my theater this weekend.
Yeah.
This might have to be one with an asterisk that they might be changed. Either no or yes. I think this is
I'm yes because I think we're looking at this decades from now. Like this is Paul Schrader like doing Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, like all those movies. Like we're not talking about Yorgos Lanthimos at 80 something years old. We're talking about Yorgos Lanthimos in his 30s and 40s.
But
like
are we going to associate Yorgos Lanthimos in this time span looking forward with The Lobster or like The Favorite and Poor Things?
I think The Lobster is necessary because it's his first English language movie. It's the movie that kickstarted. Like, I don't know how, if you're studying Yorgos Lanthimos, you don't look at these movies. You don't look at The Lobster.
Okay. Is
Like, I wouldn't
Yorgos?
put Sacred Deer on it because I think
I would
Sacred,
not.
because I don't think there's any talk around Sacred Deer, and it's in the middle between like his bigger, more famous movies.
Yeah.
But like this is the kickstart of this is like Taxi Driver for Scorsese. Like, this is the movie that you're like, this guy like has something, and this is what got him mainstream attention. And even though he's not
Okay.
mainstream, I think The Favorite got him the most mainstream attention, but he would not have The Favorite had he not done The Lobster.
So let me see if it was nominated for awards, because I am leaning towards you. I understand your. I'm not saying that.
I'm saying if you want to be an objective determiner of what is a modern classic, you must say this is a modern classic.
I think you might be. So I'm saying, did this get nominated for Academy of The Lobster? Let me see. Let me see what this was nominated for. So I don't think I have a good enough argument against it. So it competed for the Palme d'Or when it came out of the Cannes Film
Yes.
Festival, and it won the jury prize.
Oscar best the screenplay nominee.
It was nominated for best
Can
original
you imagine this
screenplay.
movie getting a best screenplay nominee?
That would be sick. That is
That's
awesome.
no, it did.
It did. No, I'm saying that's sick. Like, that's awesome.
Golden Globe nominee for Colin Farrell. I mean, it's for the comedy musical one, which is crap.
Yeah, this
BAFTA
is
nominee.
so Alcalade. So it was nominated for a bunch of different stuff. It won a British Independent Film Award for Best Supporting Actress. It won the jury prize. It won the Palm Dog Award. I don't know. Oh, for a dog, Bob the dog. That can. Critics' Choice. It was Best Original, but nominated. And okay, you know what, Matt? I'll agree with you. I think I don't have a good enough argument against it. You're right. If Yorgos is going to be a director who is continually making big Oscar-nominated popular movies, The Favorite is very popular. It did really good money. It made, I think it was almost $100 million, $90 to $100 million on a $15 million budget. Poor Things is growing in estimation. Is this the start of like a director who in like 30 years, this is the best modern directors and The Lobster's where to start? If we're going to be ahead on this, how vindicated do you feel right now?
Who is normally ahead of his time on his movie takes?
How vindicated do you feel that I agree that The Lobster is probably a modern classic?
I've been forming this argument for months.
We have known each other for fucking like 12 to 13 years at this point.
Yes.
And in this time, this may be
I did it.
You did it. You have how vindicated.
This is my masterpiece.
I am here admitting The Lobster is a good to great movie, and
Yes.
it is a modern classic.
In front of tens of fans.
Instead of tens of people. Okay. Matt, when Film Frauds is a modern classic, do you think they'll look at this staple as the trend of like, he did it? He turned Tyler around. He's no longer watching Godzilla versus Kong at 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
I think I did it. This is The Lobster. This is the starting point of something great.
I am so proud of you. Okay. Matt, do you have any final points? Any final arguments? Anything to say as we wrap up?
That's all I got to say.
Wow. Matt, what can
Mike,
people do?
drop.
Yeah, you did it. What can people do? Where can they find us?
You can find us at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure you leave a review, a 5-star review telling us how great we are and why The Lobster is a modern classic. We got some cool movies coming up. We're going to do like a 2023 recap. We might do another calling out our watch list episode in the near future, and we're going to continue with our modern classics series as well.
Good episodes coming up. And we're doing
yes.
some bonus episodes because we're also seeing a bunch of new movies too. Like Iron Claw, Poor Things will be bonus episodes.
I cannot wait for Iron Claw.
I can't wait for it. Apparently it's fucking good.
We can't do it. We can't do our 2023 movies yet until we see Iron Claw because that movie is going to explode my underwear. There'll be no underwear left.
And it's going to shrivel up because it's going to be miserable and depressing and sad.
Oh, I'm ready. I know the story.
I know you're emotionally ready for this fucking thing. I'm not. I know about it. I know what happens. I know
you got to watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode because it's good. I hope it ends with The Wrestler by Bruce Springsteen. You know the ending song to The Wrestler? Have you ever seen a electric pony? I hope they do that again just because they're both related to Wrestler.
Yeah.
What if Randy the Ram makes a cameo?
Do you think even It's like bringing out the fictional Randy the Ram. I would.
Randy the Ram.
Is that?
Sweet
should we
Child of
rewatch
Mine
that
comes
movie?
on. I would my underwear would thoroughly explode if that happened.
You should be proud because the original like film fraud start was basically like The Handmaiden and The Wrestler.
Yep.
You've done it. You're getting me
I'm ahead of my time. How many times do I gotta say it? There's no one more ahead of their time than me.
than you. Do you think your Kills of the Flower Moon take will be ahead of the time, or do you think?
Yes, I think you know what. Remember, I said I was joking at the start. I wasn't joking. I was being sincere. I'm going to, if we ever get famous and like we're in the Hollywood circuit, I want people to go back on this podcast and be like, maybe we should invite them to any of these free events because he's gonna roast all of our classic filmmakers.
Siskel and Ebert, watch out! It's Matt and Tyler.
Yes,
We're doing
Siskel
it.
and Ebert, more like Siskel and
Poop.
yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love Ebert. Matt,
He's a pretty good film critic.
he's got a lot of good stuff. His
But
Do
like,
the
he
Right
wasn't
Thing.
ahead of his time on Killers of the Flower Moon, like I am.
He was ahead of his time with Do the Right Thing, though, and I think I gotta give him a pass.
He's ahead of his time with Blue Velvet. That's his best review.
Fuck you, Blue Velvet's a great movie. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. Matt, when do you think you're gonna watch Oppenheimer, and what can they do to find our podcast?
All right, I'll watch Oppenheimer when it comes on Peacock, which I think it's gonna be pretty soon.
It's not gonna be on Peacock. It's Universal. Is Universal Peacock?
I think so.
I bought on
NBC,
Blu-ray.
yeah, as
I
all
bought on
NBC
Blu-ray.
shows.
I own it.
Cool. Oh, can you give it to me so I can watch it?
I can give it to you over winter break. Yeah, when I
Yeah.
see you.
Okay. You own it?
I do. I bought it.
Have you
It was
watched
on-
it?
I have not, but I did rewatch Barbie, and Barbie's really good.
It's on HBO Max.
Barbie is?
Where'd you watch it?
I bought on Blu-ray. It was on sale. I went to Best Buy when I was home from Thanksgiving break, and it was like $9.99 for Barbie, and I was like, okay.
Oh my god! Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Matt, where can they find our podcast, and where can they rate it?
I just said where I can find the
They
podcast.
didn't. I was thinking.
I
about
said
all
we can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. You stupid idiot! Shut your mouth, bro.
Okay, I'm gonna go cry.
I work at an inner city school. You think you can out talk me?
I can't. I forgot you could already outwit me, out talk me, and now you're just doubling down the skills. Okay. Matt, next time you come, you should tell me you should get a roast of like what somebody says, like give a good roast and report back.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about, but okay.
Like when somebody roasts you at the school that you work at, you should then report it here so I can
I'm unroastable.
You're unroastable. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. This has been the
I think I'm
Lobster.
Pete.
Shut the fuck up. Thank you guys for watching. This has been The Lobster. It's a modern classic. It joins our echelon of film frauds, whatever that may be. And join us for the next episode, whatever that may be, because I don't remember our schedule. Because it was going to be Poor Things, but you can't see Poor Things because it's not coming to a movie theater near you. But we'll see it eventually. Okay. Thank you guys for watching, and this has been fun, and goodbye.